Welcome to News West 9's West Texas View with Johnny Lou Avery.
Welcome to the West Texas View. I'm Johnny Lou Avery, and my guest today is Sharon Davis. She is the Executive Director of the World War II WASP Museum in Sweetwater, Texas. She was a guest last week, and we talked about a huge event that happened last night, and it just was a wonderful, wonderful thing that happened, and we are so pleased that we had an opportunity to have her on last week. But we didn't really get to talk about the history and all of the fun things surrounding the WASP, who were the Women's Air Service pilots, and they were the first military pilots in U.S. military history. And they just have a wonderful legacy. And so Sharon told us a little bit about herself and how she came to be. She grew up in the Sweetwater area, was a teacher and a coach in Sweetwater High School. So she's always been very, very interested. She was a history teacher and was familiar, not only because the WASP, that was the home of the WASP, but also because she was a little bit disturbed that we didn't have more information in the public about the WASP. So now she's taken this job and has an opportunity to help tell the WASP story, and she's a really good one to tell the story.
Thank you, Johnny.
But I want you to talk a little bit for the people in the audience that don't really understand everything about the WASP. Tell a little bit about what the WASP are all about.
Oh, I'd love to. I like to tell the WASP story. These women, there were 1,834 of them that were accepted into this experiment. Actually, the women had never before flown military planes in America. And when Pearl Harbor was bombed, the United States realized that we did not have enough pilots to fight in two theaters, to win in two theaters. And so the pressure was on to train as many pilots as quickly and as efficiently as possible. And Jacqueline Cochran, one of the top aviatrix of the time, realized that women could do some of the jobs that men pilots were doing here in the United States.
And free them up to go to the front line.
Free men to go into combat. That's correct. So she went actually to the President of the United States and asked President Roosevelt to consider using women to ferry planes, move planes from base to base or factory to bases, repair shops to bases, the jobs that were not non-combative.
But critical.
But critical, because it was taking manpower to do that. So the order went down to the Commanding General of the Army Air Corps, General Hap Arnold, to set up a training base to teach women to fly the military planes and move them.
The Army way.
The Army way,
because a
yes.
lot of these women already were pilots.
They were. In fact, they had to be pilots. They all had a private pilot's license. That was one of the requirements. Now, men doing the same thing during that time did not have to have a pilot's license, but the women were chosen out of the 3,000 women in America that had private pilot's license at the end of 1942. That was the list that was used to contact women who might be willing to come and take on this job. So 1,834 of them during 1943 and 44 answered that call and left their homes all over the United States and came to, in fact, one from Canada also, as we mentioned last week, came to Sweetwater, Texas, Avenger Field, which was already operating as an Army pilot training base. At that time, we were training Royal Air Force cadets. That program was coming to an end. So it freed up the planes, the barracks, the instructors. Of course, the instructors were all men, and that caused a few obstacles for the girls because some of the men were not in favor of having women on an Army
Yeah.
base, and not in favor of women training to fly military planes, and perhaps didn't believe that the women could physically do this job. But those 1,834, of which 1,074 actually graduated, the 1,074 for sure proved that women could fly military planes. And when it took them about 6 months to go through training there at Avenger Field, and they ended up, between them all, they ended up having flown every kind of plane that the military had in the sky.
But one of the things that is interesting is, of the 1,800 that were accepted into the program, you have to remember this was wartime, and some of them had to go home. One of them's husband was injured on a ship, was blinded when the ship was attacked, and she had to go home and take care of the husband who was blinded, and so she had to drop out. It wasn't because she couldn't do the job.
Oh, absolutely. There were many reasons
That's
for
right.
that. And the WASP themselves will tell you that there were many able women pilots who washed out. And there also, we should not forget, that there were also 38 of them killed in crashes. 10 of them while in training and 28 at their duty stations. They were sent to 120 different stations, Army Air Force bases across the United States when they left their training, when they completed their training at Avenger Field.
And some of those that, we have to remember, some of their jobs was things like testing the airplanes
Oh, yes.
after they had been repaired.
Oh, yes.
So they went up to see if it was okay for the men to fly.
That's right. They ended up doing more than just moving planes around, more than ferrying planes, which was a vital need. They did take care of that need. But, you know, one of the most impressive things is that in that 2-year period, those 1,074 women took over 75,000 planes from factories to Air Force bases. That is a huge number of jobs. And they were just dedicated and willing to do whatever was asked of them. So they ended up flying bombers, fighter planes, every kind of plane.
And one of the other things, there's just so much to tell. We're going to have to take a break, and we'll be back in just a minute and continue this conversation. See you in just a second.
Stay tuned. West Texas View will be right back.